Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to make these cute Genshin Impact inspired slime buddies, and they're made out of foam and it's super easy. So first I'm going to use some tin foil because I don't want my foam to be very thick. It'll crack when it dries, so we're just going to put a thin layer of foam over this unusual circle shape that I'm going to make. And I'm saying it's unusual because it's not quite completely a circle. It's round, but it has a flat bottom, so it sits nicely. And it resembles the shape of a little slime buddy. So just kind of mush that tin foil as much as you can until it's pretty much solid, because you don't want it to be any more squishable when you put the foam on it, because it'll kind of mess up your whole round scheme that we have going on here. And this foam clay is relatively easy to work with. It does take a little bit of finessing. I find it a lot easier to roll it out. So play with your tin foil for a little while. Make sure it's absolutely perfect, because this is going to be your base. This is actually the most important part, because if you guys don't get this shape correct, your slime isn't going to come out right the rest of the way, I guess. So make sure you take your time with this part. Especially, I gave you guys a little extra time. So when you have your shape complete and you think it's absolutely the best shape that you can make, completely solid, you're going to want to start playing with this clay foam stuff. So it is kind of wet when it comes out of the package. Like, it feels kind of like silly string, and I don't know why. It just brings back like childhood nostalgia. So I just kind of roll it around a little bit and try to get some of the moisture out of it so it doesn't stick as much. And like I said, roll it out as smooth as you can with whatever you have that's pretty much flat. I just have an alcohol bottle. And once that's smooth and nice and flat, I'm just going to peel it off of the glass. You guys can use parchment paper too. I figured glass would be easier because it wouldn't kind of lift up. It's not very light. But I'm just going to kind of fold that over as smooth as I can. And this stuff does stretch a little bit, so that definitely helps. I do want to keep it very, very smooth though. I'm trying not to press too hard into it. But I am going to rip off the excess on the bottom, and that's okay if you see a little bit of tin foil, because that's going to be our bottom. You're not really going to see that as much, and you can just smooth that out. So it should look something like this. Has a little bit of a flat bottom, but it's mostly round. So to make the smaller ones, I pretty much did the same exact technique. I'm just going to flatten it a little bit so it's not perfectly round. And these I figured were just like cute miniatures. I figured I'd make one as like a little desktop decor, and then one on maybe like a little base. So a couple of these have some interesting antennas, and I basically just put a piece of wire in the top of it and kind of stretched the foam up a little bit. I basically just rolled it into a ball, stuck it on there, and kind of made that cone shape, almost like a little clay mushroom. And for the top, I'm just going to do pretty much the same technique I did with that, and just roll it into a ball, stick it on there, and kind of just mold it into the shape that I'm happy with. I do want to make it look like it is connected to his little antenna. Kind of reminds me of like an anglerfish, actually, which is pretty cute. So I'm just going to smooth that out and make sure it touches the rest of the clay so it sticks there. Otherwise, it'll probably just fall off of the piece of wire. You got to stick the clay to the clay, otherwise it's not going to stay together. But this stuff is pretty sticky, so it kind of goes together pretty well, even though you're using different colors. It's like a really soft, squishy polymer clay. The only thing is it air dries. And I pretty much did the same thing to the little guys. So I let these dry overnight, but the bottom of them is still a little wet. So I definitely want to let that air out as much as I can before I paint the bottom of it. So you could see it's like a little bit of a different color than the rest of the foam. Like the foam dries a little bit darker, like there's a slight color shift kind of with paint. So while those are drying, I'm actually going to take a thin piece of white foam and just draw my eye shape out. And it's basically just an elongated oval. It's a pretty easy shape to kind of remember, I guess. And I'm just going to try to make the second eye pretty much the same shape and size. And I'm going to do this for pretty much all of the slimes that I made. Not sure what slime you're making, but you can make all of them. You can make one, you can make custom slimes. And I'm just going to cut those out. And speaking of custom slimes, how cool would it be to make a slime that's kind of like the mushroom in Minecraft, like a little mushroom slime? I think that would be so cute. Maybe that'll be another video. I don't know. If you guys like that idea, let me know down in the comments. Maybe I'll make a video on that because it does sound really adorable. But anyways, here's my eyes. I'm just kind of perfecting the round shape. I don't really want all of those like little tiny edges and corners and stuff. So I'm just going to do my best and trim them with the scissors. It's so small. It's so hard to cut with the scissors, I'm not going to lie. Just get that like perfect little round edge. Just do the best you can. That's what I did. And as you can see, I'm just going to show you guys really quick like how it's eventually going to look as I drop one. Sorry. But yeah, you can kind of see like it already has a little bit of life to them once you put the eyes on, but we're going to wait on that for a second because there's something else that I want to do to the eyes, and I just want to put this like orange ring around the outside because that's kind of how it looks in the game. Like it has this like little ring around it, so it's not completely white, and some of them are purple and some of them are blue. It's really up to you guys, whatever color you guys want to do. Like I said, if you do like custom slimes, you know, you could do any color. So I pretty much just used a marker. It works pretty well on this white foam. You guys can use paint too if you don't have markers laying around. I just have a bunch of Sharpies, so I figured it was easier to use that. And I'm just going to do it to the other side. And yeah, I'm definitely going to get marker all over my fingers doing this. Like my fingers were so stained after this video. I had to wash them like a million times just to get the blue color off. I think the blue color is probably the worst. So if you guys want to use paint for this, it might wash off a lot better. Just saying. And there we have our cute little eyes. So now that you have all of your eyes made, you're going to want to play around with them, look at them. I mean, this is totally unnecessary. I just like love seeing it almost have a face, I guess. I don't know. I just think it's cute once it has life into it, like I said. And like I said, I made some of them blue, some of them purple. You can just kind of get the idea of where we're going with this. And the purple one is actually the only one that has purple eyes, so I just used like a lighter color purple marker on that one. So I did make a couple of other little fun things, especially for the air slime or the Animo slime. I just kind of drew a bunch of wings and pretty much picked the best one out of that. Like, I drew so many of them and I was like, which one is the best? And I also made little horns out of the same. So after I cut the wings out, well, one of the wings, because I couldn't decide like which one. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to trace this one so it's exactly the same on the other side. Like same shape, same size, everything. Because I do want a larger pair and a smaller pair because I am making two different size slimes. So I picked one larger and one smaller, and I pretty much just kind of drew a little bit better with the lines. Just to kind of, so I can see like where exactly everything is, even the little swirl and stuff, because it's on the opposite side. So as you can see, I put that one next to it so I can like mimic the other side. And I cut that out. And this part was actually a little bit easier than most of the parts that I cut out, because it was a little bit bigger of a piece of foam. So this part wasn't too bad. I think the eyes were definitely a lot harder to cut out. And I'm actually going to leave the pencil on there because I feel like that is the perfect gray to kind of just show those. And this isn't the slime that it's going on, but here's just the water one to kind of show you, or the ice slime, cryo slime, just to kind of show you guys an idea of like where we're going with this. It's going to have little wings. So for the horns, I pretty much just cut those out the same way. And these are the smallest pieces and the worst pieces to cut out of this foam. And I'm using really small scissors, which also helps too. They're like little sewing scissors. But I just try to do my best. And there's a little bit of corners on there. But smooth those out a little bit with your scissors. Same we did the eyes. And you can see he's going to have little horns. I think it's the pyro slime or the fire slime and the hydro slime, the water slime, that has the little horns. So I made 4 pairs of those. And it's pretty cute. I just can't stop playing with these. It's like Mr. Potato Head all over again. But anyways, our next step is basically I'm just going to take a lighter color of the color foam that I originally used and just paint the bottom of it and blend it halfway up. Kind of dry brushing, just, you know, doing my best to kind of blend it. You could use your finger or like a makeup sponge or something too. I end up just kind of smudging it with my finger, and that works relatively well. I mean, this stuff, once it dries, it kind of feels like a makeup sponge, so same thing, I guess, right? And you can see the bottom of it has a couple like little imperfections, but you're really not going to see that because he's going to be sitting on something. So just take your time with this part. It's just a lot of me blending and perfecting this kind of ombre effect that they have in the game. So no rush. If you guys want to fast forward a little bit, that's okay too. If you want to just let this play, that's all right. But I don't like to skip any details if I can help it, especially when it comes to painting. So it should look something like that. So I did that to all of the other ones. I know it's a little hard to see, but they all have a lighter color on the bottom of them. And that kind of gives it that ombre effect. So now we're going to glue the eyes on. I know, this is the most exciting part because we get to see their little faces now. And I just used tacky glue for the eyes. I really pressed it into the foam too. Like, this stuff is pretty absorbent. So tacky glue, Elmer's glue, you know, even wood glue I think would work really well for this. At a point I do use some hot glue for a couple of other things. So you could probably use hot glue for this too. They're just really small, so I didn't want to burn myself with these tiny, tiny eyeballs. Like, they were so hard to cut out, so I figured tacky glue was my safest bet. That, and I can kind of move them around a little bit better. You know, like the hot glue, that would dry or cool really, really fast. So moving them around and getting them like perfectly even and centered is important. And here are all of our eyes. They look adorable. So for the smaller ones, like I said, cutting that foam out was rough. So I'm actually just going to paint them on the best I could for the smaller ones. And I'm just using like a miniature hobby brush for this because they are very small. You could probably take a normal paintbrush if you don't have like a really small one and cut some of the bristles off to get like a smaller brush. Like if you have one of those cheap disposable brushes used for like rubber cement, you could use that too. And after that dries, I'm just going to take an orange Sharpie. I am using the thinner one and just kind of outline the eyes just to give it that same like little outline or ring around their eyes like the larger one has. I think this really does add a lot of detail to it, and I do think this is a very important step that gives the eyes its cute little life. So, or its soul, as you will, even though these things are basically equivalent to the pet rock. Not quite sentient, but still great. So here we go. All of our little guys have their little eyes, and they are adorable. So for the horns, I want to color them a little bit to kind of match the slime. So this one's going to be the pyro slime, and I'm just going to do the tips of the horns orange at first and like let that dry for a second in between, because later on I'm going to take another marker and kind of blend it a little bit. So this part is important. Just make sure you get just the top half. You don't want to get the entire horn yet, just because, like I said, we're going to blend it a little bit better. But first I want to put the other layer, and I'm just using a normal yellow marker and just doing the bottom half, kind of like a candy corn, just covering all of the white. And this is important because you're going to put a little bit of alcohol on the bottom of that horn, so when you blend the orange down, it's going to be a lot smoother. I mean, you could blend it with just one color, but you have to make sure your marker is still kind of wet on the surface. But I wanted the top of this to be like a darker orange, so I just put one layer. So I'm just going to take my orange and go right around the middle area where those two colors meet, and just wet it a little bit with that marker, and then kind of rub my finger down a little bit, and you get that nice gradient kind of effect where it blends it in a lot better. And you don't have to do this. I just chose to do this because I figured, you know, you can actually shade with markers on foam. And I think it's a neat little technique. So I'm going to do the same for the hydro slime. That's the water slime, and he has little horns. And this is actually just a blue highlighter. I decided to use the blue highlighter because the blue Sharpie was really staining my fingers. Like I said, like I could not get it off. And my OCD is just going to drive me crazy with that. But this is the one color that I just blended down. I left the bottom of it relatively white just because it looks like a lighter blue now. So for the horns, I'm just going to use a little bit of tacky glue. Basically give him like little pretend horns with this glue at first to kind of see where you're going to place them. Like I said, the tacky glue really helps with like moving things around a little bit. And I really think that's important for his little face because they're so small. And it's kind of hard to get them placed exact at first. You can see I'm moving it around quite a bit to kind of get it perfect, especially when I put the other one on there. And there we go. Evil little pyro slime. So I am going to use a little bit of wire once again for attaching a couple of things. And one of them is the wings. And I'm just using a very, very thin wire. I don't remember what gauge this is exactly, but it's pretty small. It's like sewing needle size, if that helps. And I'm just going to kind of poke it in to the wing where I'm going to attach it to the rest of his body. And I want them to be relatively even, so I'm just going to kind of make sure that I put the wire in the same spot. So I'm just going to hold them up to one another just to kind of compare, make sure that's in the right spot, and just press that in a little bit. And you definitely want to make sure you don't poke it through like I did because it's not going to hold very well. So just poke that in a little bit better than I did and it'll work. I promise. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tacky glue on that wire, and I do want to make sure it touches the foam so that wire is glued into there, and so the foam piece is glued onto the foam body. And I just want to kind of place that and press that in. Make sure it doesn't go into the wing more, so if you want to like really squeeze onto the wing while you press that in there, it definitely helps. And then I'm pretty much going to do the other side, and that is how it looks. Pretty cute. So for our dendro slime or our plant slime, I just have a couple of random floral pieces, just from like the hobby store, like doing Warhammer terrain and stuff. I just have a bunch of random flowers laying around. I'm sure you could make some flowers out of that white foam and maybe paint it, or you could use whatever flower you want. You could put a pink flower on and make it look like Bulbasaur. You know, but I'm just using something that I found that was like relatively close to what it looks like in the game. Like he has this like little orange flower on there. So I'm just going to glue this stuff together a little bit, you know, make it look like it has some leaves underneath it. And clip off the really long stem on the bottom because I don't think I want to put that all the way through. It's pretty bendy. It's plastic, so it's not like the wire that I was sticking in. But I'm just going to take my pottery needle and just stab a hole through the top. And that's where I'm going to be putting my glue. And I do want to get a little bit of glue inside of that hole as well, because that's really going to hold on a little bit better. And then I'm just going to take my flower and press him right onto the top. Just like that. And that should take a little while to dry, but once it does, it should be on there pretty well. And now he has a little flower on the top of his head. So I'm just going to do the same to the little guy. Little mini lobotomy, if you will. And I do have these like little plastic plants, like I said. They're from like doing terrain stuff for like miniatures. I'm just going to cut a couple of those off because I think that is just too many leaves for how small that guy. I think that bundle of leaves is like the size of him. I'm sorry, I'm a little off camera here, but I'm just taking the leaves and pressing them into that little hole I made so they stick. And I'm just going to use about 3. I feel like odd numbers look aesthetically pleasing. And there's my OCD again. But anyways, if there's like excess plastic, just rip that off so it looks a little bit better. You get that with some of these fake plants. And then I'm going to take a little yellow one because I think the yellow is going to look really nice when we paint a little bit of freckles on him. Because they have like these little yellow spots, and I really think that that would complement the yellow leaves. So just going to paint a couple little spots and speckles, little freckles. And they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be perfectly round. As a matter of fact, they look better when they're not perfectly round. It looks more natural for this little plant guy, so. And there we go. I'm just going to do the same on the little guy. He's going to get a couple little speckles as well to kind of match the bigger slime. And as simple as this little detail is, it really does make the little character. It really just gives it something that it didn't have before, I guess. So for the Geo slime, that is our rock slime, I'm just using a little bit of foam insulation, and I just cut it into like these pillars, and I'm basically just going to cut a bunch of pieces off of it, almost like crystals, but more rock shaped than pointed. And if you guys are wondering how to make crystals out of foam, I do have another video on another channel of mine. It's called Chloe's Magic Minis, where I do Warhammer and D&D terrain. And sometimes I just paint Warhammer figurines and stuff, so, and Reaper's miniatures. But if you guys want to go watch that video, it kind of gives a better description of what I'm doing here if you wanted to make like little foam crystals for some of your slimes. So I just want to kind of peel off like the fuzzy little edges, but it's not completely square. And I'm going to take off some of the other kind of square edges to just kind of make it look a little more rock shaped, really. Because rocks aren't normally square. I mean, some crystals are square, but we're not really doing crystals. We're doing like little boulders or rocks. This little Geo guy. He has like a little rock hat on. I didn't actually make his hat because it just didn't seem like possible for some reason. Like there should be 5 of these rocks on his head. Like that's what it looks like in the game. But when I put it together, it just didn't really look aesthetically pleasing. So I was like, all right, once again, with my OCD, I'm just going to use 3 of them because less is more at this point. And I think that really does look better. But I'm just using some brown paint and kind of just painting all of the pink foam so it doesn't look like foam. And I'm not really too worried about the bottom of it because that's the part we're going to glue onto his head. So you don't really have to put paint on that. It'll probably just peel off and come off with the glue. So, and take your time with this. Just make sure you cover up all of the little pink spots because I feel like I always miss a spot with this stuff, especially when I'm doing like terrain and stuff like that. There's always like a little pink dot somewhere. It like never fails. So yeah, just take your time with that for a minute. And I'm going to do the same exact thing to the smaller little rock shapes that I made. And just let those dry real quick. But for this part, I'm just going to use a hot glue gun because these pieces are a little bit bigger, but my hot glue gun is actually not on a high temperature at all because it'll melt the foam. And if I have excess glue, like you see here, I want to kind of wipe that off without burning my fingers. So like I said, make sure it's on a low temp for this. And then just kind of center the front one on the best you can. And I kind of want to make like a little triangle form with these. So I'm just going to glue the other ones on. And like I said, the glue kind of cools very quickly. So be careful when you're putting these on. Make sure that they're in the exact spot that you want them on. Because it's not like the tacky glue. You're not going to be able to kind of move it around. So mine didn't come out perfect, but I'm pretty happy with him. So if he has a crooked hat, it's okay. So like I said, like a little triangle kind of formation. And I think that that looked a lot better. Plus, I'm going to paint some little speckles on him like we did the dendro slime or our plant slime. But yeah, I think he came out pretty cute. And I'm just going to take the same brown, like the dark brown paint that I was using to paint his little rock hats, and just give him the same kind of little speckles or freckles that I did with the plant guy. But I'm just going to put a little pile of those in between each of his little rocks sticking out and kind of give it that effect that he has, you know, more just smaller rocks, you know, and like little texture that little rocks would have, I guess. And I'm actually going to give him some little eye speckles over here. And I'm sorry I'm a little off camera. I'm just drawing like 3 dots right next to his eyes just to give him that extra personality that a rock would have. I mean, we've come a long way since the pet rock. So, but as you can see, just 3 little dots. And I must say, these little foam buddies are a lot lighter than the pet rock, so that's also a plus. I'm sure you can give them fun hairdos and stuff, maybe even googly eyes if you wanted. And I just have a little bit of this like aqua metallic paint. You guys don't have to do this part. You guys can just use whatever, or you could just not do this part at all. You could use glitter, but I'm just going to take a little bit of this metallic because this is our hydro slime. He's going to be our water slime, and I just want to make it look a little shiny. Kind of how water looks wet, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that, and this is a heavy body paint. I think this is one of those folk art color shift paints. It's got a pretty thick body to it, so you might have to smooth it out a little bit. Like I said, it's heavy bodied, so it takes a little bit of finessing to get all of the little paint strokes out to kind of make it look smooth or wet like water. And even water has like little tiny ripples in it, so if it's not perfect, it's still gonna look good. But yeah, pretty much just do this until you're happy with it. Took me a little while to be happy with it because I wanted to make sure it was like even around like all sides of him, but with still maintaining some asymmetric to it, if that makes sense. Sorry, hard to explain. But I didn't want it completely round. I just kind of wanted it a little random, but even. And get rid of all of those like big chunks of paint that are going to take forever to dry. And there we go. He kind of looks like water a little bit. And for our cryo slime, that's our icy guy. I'm going to put some tacky glue and give him a nice hairdo. This is glitter glue crafts all over again, so yay, nostalgia. But yeah, pretty much just give him a fancy hairdo with some glue. And I actually just have some snow flock here. This is basically just white sand and glitter. So you guys can probably use snow flock for like miniatures and stuff like that, but this I found was a bit cheaper. Like you can just find white sand at the dollar store and just add some glitter. I think they also have that at the dollar store. You know, most random stores like Walmart, Target have things like this, so. Or even just like hobby stores, you can get stuff like this for pretty cheap. So basically just gave him a glittery sand hairdo. And this is just flock left over from like making Christmas ornaments. Like the little DIY Christmas ornaments that like you make the little scene inside the clear like ball. It was a lot of fun. But I just had a little bit of that left over and made it look like he had snow on the top of him. And I think it came out pretty cute. I really do like the sparkles. It really does resemble ice. So for our purple guy, he has some interesting makeup. And circles are hard to draw. So I'm just going to take the top of a marker and kind of just press into his like little cheeks evenly on each side. And I really don't know what the back of these things look like. I'm too busy fighting them in the game to kind of be like, oh, that's what you look like. And I can't really find a whole lot of pictures on the internet of like the back of them. So I just put 2 more circles on the back to kind of connect them at another point. And both of these are our electro slimes. One is the purple electro slime, and this one is the mutant electro slime. They're both pretty much the same thing, just different colors, but they're both really cute. So I figured I'd make both of them. So I did the same thing with the circle pattern, just to kind of map out where I'm going to be painting these lines and stuff. So, and you got to be pretty innovative. I just took the cap off my glue and kind of pressed his little cheeks into it. The smaller ones were a little harder. I had to like really smush it in there for it to make a mark. I don't know if it was because of the paint or what, or what I was using to kind of press it in. But be careful because you don't want to crack the foam. It does crack a little bit, like I said, when it dries, if it is a little thicker, so. And I'm going to do the same to the mutant electro slime. And I just can't even believe how cute these things are coming out already. Like, I am absolutely obsessed with these. Like, to the point where I had to show you guys, like, I had to make an entire video on this and be like, hey, this is adorable and I need to tell the world. But anyways, I'm just going to paint the best I could, I guess, with some white paint and just kind of map that circle out. This part is probably one of the most tedious parts in this, and thank goodness, because there's 2 of them that I have to do this with. Just 2. All the other ones just had like 1. Well, except for the ones with the horns. I had to make horns for 2 of them, but that wasn't nearly as complicated as painting these intricate lines. This is just practice is patience, I guess. Like, you really need to practice your patience with this. And like I said, I paint a lot of like Warhammer stuff, so I'm kind of used to the tedious grind of small lines or details. So it takes a bit of getting used to, but once you get it down, you just kind of concentrate on it and time just flies by. But in between these circles, I'm just going to draw a little V in the middle and connect those to the 2 circles. Sorry, I was yapping at you guys. Again, I do that a lot. And that's pretty much just the design that I'm going to guess that it is. I honestly don't know. Like I said, I'm too busy fighting these things in the game to like really take a good look at them. But I figured this design was simple enough. You know, even if it's not exact, you know, it's still inspired by. So that works. Plus, I'm not really trying to get in trouble with copyright. Like, these are just for me. I'm not selling them, I swear. I just really thought they were cute and like a cute idea. So, not really trying to get demonetized here. So, if they're not exact, I'm actually more happy with it that way. Plus, even if you copy something or it's inspired by, you should always put your own little twist on it anyways, even if you don't mean to. It should never be, exact unless you're doing it for something commercially and it's supposed to be that way. But this is just for fun. You know, you guys can use these for like little cosplay buddies if you cosplay Genshin Impact. You know, you could probably put like a little piece of Velcro on one and attach it to your outfit or something. You know, you can give them to your friends as gifts when you go to like Comic-Cons and stuff. You guys can make custom ones, like I said, and trade them. Like, this could be a really big thing. I mean, I'm sure you could buy plushies and keychains of these guys, but something handmade from your friends is always just so much better. But yeah, for his eyes, I'm pretty much just making the number 4, and then I'm going to replicate that, but backwards. So it's symmetric. So now a backwards number 4. And I'm not going to go all the way back with it because I honestly don't know where it ends. Like I said, I can't find a picture of what the back of these guys look like. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'm happy with it. So for our little Animo slime or our air slime, I just want to draw some like swirly cheeks on him. Kind of like the wind blowing. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like in the game. So I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to be resembling. So I'm just going to try to do that on each side and kind of get it even. And the best part about like painting this foam is if you mess up like I do here, I'm like, wait, this is not in the right direction. The swirl needs to go in the right direction or the opposite direction. I kind of just wiped it off. And because I already had paint on it, it kind of just blended right in. So now I can draw it in the right direction because I want to connect it to a couple other lines on the top of him. Like I said, I have no idea if this is what it actually looks like in the game, but I am trying my best. So bear with me. And I'm just going to draw like those 2 little lines that you kind of see when you look at the front of them. And I'm just going to wiggle my paintbrush around. I don't want it to be completely a circle shape. Like, I want it to look kind of wiggly and, like, not even. But I kind of want to connect those lines together and make it look like, you know, maybe whoosh of wind swooshing or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's like kind of reminds me of a wind baseball in a way. And I'm just going to do the same on the other side. And like I said, I really think that this might be good enough. At least for me. If you guys end up making one that's like better, I will definitely watch that video. Oh, sorry, off camera. But yeah, that's what he looks like, and I'm gonna say I'm happy with him. I think he came out pretty cool. And I'm just gonna do the same for the smaller one. So here they are, all finished. They look so cute. I am obsessed with these. I kind of want to keep making more. Like, I really, really want to make more. Tell me what you guys thought.